Dave Morris. Good afternoon, Mr. Morrison. Thank you for waiting patiently, and you're at the back of the queue, I'm afraid.
No problem. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I am a core participant and make this short oral opening statement as one of the McDonald's case defendants. The other defendant is fellow core participant Helen Steele. She is currently preparing her own detailed witness statement on wider issues, including the shocking extent of the SDS's impact on her life. But firstly, I'd like to say, having listened to the harrowing statements made today, let me extend my solidarity to the other non-state core participants. We have all been heavily impacted by what the Met Police yesterday admitted was a dysfunctional undercover unit, the human toll of which they now accept was severe and wide-ranging. Your own 2023 interim report as the inquiry chair had already concluded that the SDS should have been brought to a rapid end in the early 1970s. If it had been, its industrial-scale breaches of people's rights and lives and the undermining of movements for positive change would not have taken place. The McDonald's Corporation versus Steele and Morris court case resulted from a London Greenpeace campaign against the burger giant in the mid-1980s. We were sued for libel in 1990. It became the longest trial in English history. We had been denied legal aid, so had to defend ourselves, supported for free behind the scenes by a barrister, Keir Starmer. It ended with a victory in the European Court of Human Rights in 2005. The proceedings involved a prolonged and colossal effort by the three of us and a great deal of stress. The inquiry has begun to shine a light on a dark and highly significant secret: the involvement of the SDS and the two-way collusion between the Metropolitan Police and McDonald's in the 1980s and 1990s. But there remain vital questions which now need answering by witnesses, admissions and disclosure during tranche 3, including how long did the collusion go on for, who knew about it, and who authorised it. Inquiry documentation has already revealed a great deal of evidence, which I have outlined in detail in my written statement published today, I believe. So what are some of the things that we know already? HN10, Bob Lambert, helped to research and write the What's Wrong with McDonald's fact sheet, which became the subject of the libel action. He and another infiltrator, HN5 John Dines, both enthusiastically took part in the anti-McDonald's campaign and distribution of the fact sheet. Dines engineered a long-term intimate relationship with London Greenpeace participant Helen Steele, characterised by counsel to this inquiry a year ago as, quote, cold, calculating, emotional and sexual exploitation. McDonald's themselves hired 7 spies to infiltrate London Greenpeace for an 18-month period to identify who was active in the campaigning. Dines became aware of these individuals and who they were. The security services were made aware of McDonald's spies and asked for a more detailed report from the SDS. McDonald's head of security, Sid Nicholson, and his deputy, Terry Carroll, both former Met Police chief superintendents in Brixton Police Station in the early 1980s before being employed by McDonald's, were aware of Dines and the SDS operation. It should be noted that Bob Lambert had been a special branch officer with responsibility for the Brixton area also in the early 1980s. Sid Nicholson testified during the McLibel trial that McDonald's security were, quote, all ex-police, and he could get information on protesters from former contacts. HN67 Alan Bond told Dines that he had known about the McDonald's spying operation from the outset, and that McDonald's knew who Dines was. Dines was arrested at the Trafalgar Square poll tax disturbances. Commander Gunn, who I'll talk about later, pulled Dines' charges and the paperwork was destroyed. HN67 Bond was temporarily transferred to a special branch unit investigating the Trafalgar Square events. An officer of that unit had meetings with one of the McDonald's spies, and they shared confidential information about participants in London Greenpeace. We later successfully sued the Met over this, but they concealed the much greater collusion with McDonald's through the SDS. Dines' witness statement explains that he was, quote, omitted from the writ served by McDonald's originally on 5 of those active in the campaign, and that this action, obviously by senior officers in collusion with McDonald's, threatened to compromise his deployment. It seemed to be a risk they were willing to take. Dines reported in advance the exact date McDonald's had planned to serve the writs. Once the writs had been served, McDonald's security manager Terry Carroll said he was going to contact Special Branch for an assessment. Dines reported, presumably by exploiting his relationship with Helen Steele, on an early closed meeting of the 5 original defendants in which we discussed legal strategy, and also on later legal strategy meetings. Dines has admitted, it is accurate to say I was by the side of Helen Steele and Dave Morris in 1991 and relaying the legal advice, i.e. from Keir Starmer, back to my bosses in the SDS. Bob Lambert was SDS manager during the McLibel trial. Sid Nicholson was overseeing the litigation for McDonald's. Establishing the facts on who had been involved in helping create and publish the anti-McDonald's fact sheet was a fundamental issue during the McLibel proceedings at every level up to and including the European Court. The courts were misled at every stage. Lambert was in charge of a major operation to try to prevent Helen Steele tracking down her ex-partner Dines, who had disappeared without trace, faking a mental breakdown. He reported that if she found him and discovered the truth, then they, that is Helen, myself and Keir, would give serious consideration to subpoenaing Dines and or the commissioner to give evidence at the McDonald's libel case. In other words, the SDS and MPS were knowingly sabotaging the opportunity to call a key witness during a major trial. Would this have led to the collapse of the McLibel trial and the closure of the SDS? As can be seen, there was extensive collusion, breaches of legal privilege, misfeasance in public office, interference with legal process, and maybe most significantly, lying to and misleading courts by the failure to disclose vital evidence throughout the McLibel hearings right up to the European level. When asked about some of this in Tranche 2, SDS managers testified that such collusion would have to be authorised at a higher level than the SDS, probably commander level. I understand that Commander Gunn who was the commander at the time, produced a position paper regarding the special branch having established excellent links with commercial and industrial organisations, including through delivering presentations and briefings and offering what he termed, quote, a consultancy service. Commander Gunn is giving evidence next Monday, and Deputy Assistant Commissioner Phelan at some point. They're both during, so they'll both be giving evidence during this phase. They were the higher levels at the key early stages of the McLibel story, so need to be robustly questioned. Who knew about these matters? How long did it go on for? How was the collusion conducted? How high up was the authorization given? Who liaised with McDonald's? What was the role of Bob Lambert? What was the role of the security services? Why was it allowed to happen? I also ask, who now is going to take responsibility and apologise unreservedly for this scandal? I acknowledge and welcome that a number of apologies have already been made by the Metropolitan Police for the serious wrongdoing by the SDS. Like many core participants, I am currently awaiting a full witness statement from the Home Office and for an apology from the Home Secretary for successive governments authorising and signing off these secret political policing deployments. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We will resume tomorrow at 10 when the final opening submissions on behalf of core participants will be made. I anticipate we will finish by mid or early late afternoon tomorrow.